The Roaring Twenties can be categorized into two main categories: traditional and modernity. Now, traditional, starting off, one of the traditional values was anti immigration. Now, this was mainly introduced by WASPs, or white Anglo Saxon Protestants. And these people were very anti immigration, and the US passed many laws to inhibit more immigration into. Many advocates for immigration laws were from the KKK. The KKK had always been against immigration and non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in the U.S. and wanted to, quote unquote, purify the U.S. of any impurities. And this led them to do marches, and the Klan actually reached its height at this time with the most members worldwide. And soon after the 1920s, it would go down in the amount of members, but still had a big influence in immigration laws today. Another form of traditionalism was the Red Scare, and this was mainly consisting the reason why this came out because of the revolution in Russia, and many Americans also feared, pairing along with immigration, that many um, communists were going to come into the US, and many of them took out strikes and did lots of other things, and this caused many irregularities and would cause eventually the government to do the Palmer Act, which basically gave authorities any way or form that they chose to take out any communists or people who had communist values from the U.S. Many were taken from Chicago, New York, hotspots for immigration, and were taken and put on boats and sent back to Europe because the U.S. feared that they were going to uprise and um, try to overthrow the government as they did in Russia. And people feared that this would upset their liberties, and the Red Scare was introduced with um, um, communist propaganda. Another modernity thing that came out was industry and inventions. And industry became a big part of the US as Henry Ford became out with the assembly line and many other things that contributed. Many workers were used, and assembly lines, although they were very good in producing more and more. Henry Ford had this brilliant idea. It also put out inexperienced workers out into the workplace, and that wasn't good for those workers. But still, the U.S. produced many inventions, many cars, and this led to the economy to skyrocket, and people were consuming as fast as they were producing, which was good, and it really put out these big businesses and cars that we know today. Radios also introduced the typical family picture. Airplane travel was introduced. Um, Another modernity thing was flappers, or women getting more rights. And especially because of women gaining the right to vote and those amendments, many women felt empowered and decided that they were going to go against the traditional way, wearing the long dress, covering up everything, to showing off, their legs. And this was not accepted by those who had traditional values, but for these women, they really did whatever they want. They would drink, they would smoke, um, and lots of them would cut their hair in the bob as shown. Also, advertising transformed in this time. Advertisers tried to appeal to the psychological sense, and they really did try to target your brain just like propaganda in um, the wartime. And this pretty much sums up the 1920s between modernity and tradition.